Hi, everybody, and welcome to the LGBTQ Consortium. This is Kim Hunt from Affinity Community Services. For those of you who don't know, Affinity is a social justice organization that works with and on behalf of Black LGBT communities, queer youth, and allies. And this is a call-in show. This is a community show. So we want to remind people that they can call with their questions and comments. And the phone number is 312-738-1060. And today we have two guests. We're going to be talking about homelessness among LGBTQ youth, which is a big topic. One of the things that's happening next weekend here in Chicago is an LGBTQ homeless youth summit called Dream It, Speak It, Do It, Speak It, Dream It. I always get that messed up. And we encourage people to come to that summit. I'll show you some information on how to get in contact with us soon. But the summit will be next Friday, and that day is for youth who have been impacted by homelessness at Lurie Children's Hospital. Saturday is for service providers, academics, and other folks who are interested. And that is going to be at UIC. And then Monday is a report back day that we want community to come to, legislators, funders, all of the folks who can make decisions and move resources to help us solve this issue. And that will be at the Museum of Broadcast Communications. And as I said, I'll show you a website where you can find out how to connect with all of that information. So we're going to start with our first guest, who is Jackie Boyd, an amazing activist here in Chicago. And one of the things that Jackie is involved with is Project Fierce, which is an incredible project to deal with homelessness among LGBTQ youth in a very real manner. I'll say actually providing housing that is affirming and is adequate for folks' needs. So let's just jump right in, Jackie. So tell me what prompted the formation of Project Fierce.
Well, first, Kim, I'd like to say thank you for hosting us. Mm-hmm. You and Affinity have just been so formative in the community, and I personally appreciate all the hard work you do.
Thank you.
And I'm very much looking forward to the Youth Summit next Saturday. So, well, next Friday, Saturday, and Monday, but I'll only be at the Saturday portion as I'm not a youth or a politician. So.
No, you can be there Monday, too, for the report back.
Okay. So, Project Fierce was born out of a need that was recognized by Cassandra Avenatti, who's the founder of Project Fierce Chicago. She has worked for DCFS and for a number of other youth-based organizations in the city and worked with the homeless population extensively. I've had the privilege of working for a number of youth-based organizations as well and doing youth work over the 11 years that I've lived in Chicago. So it was really based out of need and out of seeing both the needs of our youth and also the lack of the systems that are in place to have the capacity to fulfill those needs. So I think a number of years ago, she and I had talked specifically about what would a group home look like that didn't feel like an institution? What would it look like to be with other youth that are your age, that are going through the same things you're going through, but having the independence to say, these are my needs, this is what I want my home to look like, feel like, and this is what safety is for me. And be given the opportunity over time to really stabilize and then move to independence rather than the expectation being you're going to transition from homelessness overnight.
Yes, yeah. You know, I'm glad you said that, because I think with a lot of these big issues, people take a very transactional approach to them. It's like, okay, I've provided you with housing. Now, you know what? Why don't you get your life together? You know?
Right.
Like it's just happens overnight, like you said.
Absolutely.
So tell me about some of the services that you envision kind of wrapping around this issue of housing.
Well, we envision ourselves to be very comprehensive and at our core youth focused. So we're a harm reduction model. We are looking to start with a house of about 5 to 10 youth. So as you might imagine, that's going to be different personalities and different needs.
Yes.
So we're planning on offering a variety of life skills, job training, and really partnering with the community organizations that are already doing the work. Some of the people that will be referring to us will be referring, obviously, the youth in the home to secure mental health services and further training. But we have had so much community support and people and organizations ready to stand up and help us out once the house gets up and running.
And we're going to talk about that in a minute. So we have a caller right now.
Good evening.
Hi.
To me, it's not a brainer. A parent should not be able to put their child out there on the street. They should be in front of a judge, and that judge should have the power to do certain things to them, go through an attitude adjustment. And when you put your child out there on the street, you put them out there in a situation where they can go into that underworld in terms of prostitution, in terms of drugs. I remember years ago, this parent put their child out there on the street, and it was a newspaper where they chop them up and they put them in this garbage bag. And this parent was crying, saying they wished they never had forced their child out there in the street. And people need to think about those sort of things. Like I said, it's not a brainer. No parent should be able to put their child out there on the street without no type of consequence.
Thank you so much for saying that, and we're going to respond to that while you're off the air, okay? Thank you so much for calling in. So this issue about parents kicking their young people out when they come out or discovered, so to speak, or suspected, because it's not always an issue. That's real. So we know that, nationally, I think the estimate is between 20 and 40% of homeless youth are homeless because they've been kicked out of the home for those reasons, which is horrendous. So that need for the wraparound services is huge in that case. I don't know if you're working directly with youth yet, and if you can tell us about some of the stories that you're hearing, or through your own experience as a social worker.
Absolutely. Our collective has grown greatly over the course of the last year. So we have members that are working for the majority of youth-based housing organizations currently in Chicago. So the Night Ministry, the Crib, Broadway Youth Center, all of whom do a fantastic job connecting with youth and meeting their needs. So we have that experience, but many of us came to Project Fierce and resonate with Project Fierce because of our own experiences, either with homelessness ourselves, or family or friends, or a youth that we've come in contact with and worked with, that really just speak to the need and speak to how do you develop yourself when you have no family support, when you don't know where your head is going to be at night. Even for myself, I know I've had the luxury of parental support, but I was not ready to be independent at 18.
I know,
and I don't think I stand alone.
Sometimes even at 30, it's like, I want to go home.
I could still use some training.
But yeah, I feel you. Let's talk about your this project, and I'm going to just show folks how they can find out a little more about what Project Fierce is doing now. So tell us about the fundraiser that you have going on for this house.
Absolutely. Well, we've been organizing and developing our structure and doing outreach for the last year, and now we are ready to buy a property. We're, of course, researching other avenues. We are also open to donated homes. If anyone who's watching knows of someone who may be interested in donating a home, we are committed to looking at locations on the south or west side of the city, specifically South Shore, West Garfield, or the Austin neighborhood. So if you have any resources in those areas, please let us know. But for the time being, we are fundraising to purchase a foreclosed property, which we will then be developing. So our goal is to buy a home by October and be able to open our doors by January.
Put that website back up then to make that happen. This requires a community effort.
Yes.
All big social problems require community efforts. So, and those we're not supposed to do a lot of fundraising here. We're not fundraising for Affinity. We're we're just pointing out that Project Fierce has this wonderful opportunity for folks to step up and help us get a little closer to solving the issue of LGBTQ youth homelessness. So we're going to switch gears, and we are going to talk to someone who I have come to know over the last maybe 6 weeks or so on the LGBT Homeless Youth Summit. And so through the magic of television, let me introduce you to Keyshia Lay Morris. Welcome.
Welcome.
So glad to have you here. So Keyshia is working, as I said, one of the youth organizers on the LGBTQ Homeless Youth Summit project. And before we talk about that, we did have a caller earlier who asked the question, why we embrace the word queer. And it's an interesting question. It has come up quite a bit lately. So we know that queer has some negative history around it, and I think for older folks in the community, it's a word that has some baggage to it. But for younger people and for people who don't want to necessarily be labeled lesbian or bisexual, just don't identify that way, queer is a word that is used, and I think we're taking the power back and owning queer in the ways that we want to. But I think it's always good to let people know that you ask people how they identify, don't make assumptions. So we're using the word queer. I identify with the word queer, not everybody does. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Okay, back to the subject at hand. So we ended with this discussion about experiences of LGBTQ homeless youth. And so, Keyshia, I know this is something that you've dealt with before, and there was a wonderful story about you in Windy City Times about a month ago. So can you just give us a little bit of, just let people know what it's like to be a young person who is homeless?
Well, I didn't start experiencing it until after the fact that I got out of the Department of Children and Family Services. And, it's been things in life that, I didn't want to do anymore, what I'm saying? And I, struggle with my parents. They're still learning about me being trans and still trying to find ways to adapt to the situation, because by me being a Christian background oriented child, it was just very different for me. And, it came so harsh to me because, I would never expect it from a family perspective or family trying to do me in or whatever the case may be. But I just experienced it like a couple of months ago before I met these wonderful people, Tracy Bame and Bon Wade and Chicago House, being outly HIV positive youth organizer and working as an HIV prevention worker. It's been very rough for me. And, I had to stay with somebody that, that really bankly, used me to satisfy her needs because she was on drugs and I didn't have a place to go. And so I had to do things knowing that it could put me in a predicament of being seriously incarcerated, so I had to support someone's habit, not saying that I never did it myself, I didn't struggle with drugs and everything, but what I'm saying, that was coming from stress. But at the same token, I had issues, the way I was treated, even though she was a trans woman, and it made me feel even worse, and then knowing that I was too old to go to certain shelters, and then I didn't want to go to any type of shelter because, that was going to discriminate me because, living as trans, they consider you as female, and they will put you on a female floor with a bunch of different people with different orientations, different religion, and it can be a very chaotic situation. And I absolutely went through a lot at the time.
Yeah. Now, you're as you talk about your experiences, I think you're highlighting something that people don't get, is that there are some nuances to identifying as LGBT, particularly T in this case, and being a young person who's homeless. we already know there aren't enough resources for homeless youth anyway, or homeless adults, homeless families. We know this, but then when you get to the
trans perspective.
Trans perspective, yeah, it gets really, really,
Absolutely.
really dicey. So what kind of resources had you been able to find?
Well, when I found out back in June of last year, about me being HIV positive, I didn't know the absence of where I was going to go. You know what I'm saying? Because my mother was like, when I told her, she's like, girl, I told you so. See, I told you, you sitting up there fucking with these men and woo out the bam. And I said, you know, I was like, really, like, didn't need that at the time. And I had to, like, find ways to go. So I went up to Howard Brown, and they hooked me up with Chicago House. It was immediately, actually.
Oh, good.
Because they called me the next day, and I was, like, so exhausted because I didn't have no place to go because I stayed with the lady, then I got kicked out. And, you know, because I didn't want to support her in her habits and stuff like that and doing prostitution. At the time that I found some place was at Chicago House. I met Bon Wade at Chicago House, and they
Fabulous.
Absolutely, my man. I mean, he's a fabulous one person that I met at the time, and then, you know, he took me under his wing. You know, he got me the job that I'm in right now at working at Howard Area Community Center, and it's just been wonderful. I just love my experience.
So let's talk about the work that you're doing on the Youth Summit, because you're serving as an organizer. Let me straighten that out there. And this summit, again, is coming up next weekend. Unbelievable, right?
Yes, I'm so ready. This is the thing that I have been waiting for. Like, this is like one of the most important things because I have experienced it, you know, and just not just with being homeless, incarceration, you know, job finding for trans people that is not going to signify us into one category box that they usually do. Besides that, I'm just very happy, and I just want so many people to show up, and this is very important because, you know what I'm saying, this is about your young people, the next generation, not the generation now, but the next generation and what we're doing for each other.
Yeah.
And I cherish this moment.
Well, you and the other youth organizer, Breezy, have been doing a fabulous job recruiting young people to be a part of the summit. So one of the things I think is cool about this is that, one, we have young people on the planning team who have been impacted by homelessness. So there's you, there's Breezy, and there's Treon, who works at Affinity. And the other thing is the first day of the summit is a youth-only space with adult allies who are volunteering. But it's for youth who are 25 and under who have been impacted by homelessness or systems, so child welfare system, criminal justice system, and identify as LGBTQ. And the whole point of the Friday session and the Saturday session, which is for service providers, and youth will be present there as well, is that these are brainstorming sessions, and they're focused on 6 topic areas: health, housing, let me make sure I get them all, legal issues, public policy, job training and education, and there's something else in there, youth and systems. And the goal is to bring people in the room who haven't necessarily all been in the room together before and really talk about these issues and dream. Young people came up with the name for the summit, which I love, and let me get it right. It's Dream It, Speak It, Do It. And you were a part of creating that title. What were you thinking when you came up with that?
Because if you dream something, it shall come to pass. If you have dreams and visions on anything that you want to do, particularly when it matters to your future. And I said those words might work, you know what I'm saying? Because I was just thinking something and it just popped in my head like that. you know, because I have visions for our LGBT community, because I just don't want to just stop here, you know. I want to see more trans-owned businesses and more thing for our community and our area, and just not one area that we can just go to and hang out, many more areas.
Yeah.
Step one, I mean, but yeah, that's what I'm looking at.
And what do you envision when it comes to homeless youth? What does the world look like if that problem is solved? When that problem is solved?
Well, me, I mean, I come from a little stricter background. I want to see more strict, organized transgender housing and LGBT housing, and more based on trying to get them help instead of letting them run around and do what they want to do. This is not the time to play, because, you know, you say you want to get out of homelessness, and a lot of people do, and then they really want to play around with it. It's not something to play with. It's awful, you know.
Yeah, requires some structure and some
Absolutely.
work. And,
People die. Some of my friends had to do certain things and got killed, and,
yeah.
you know.
Yeah, you know, and those stories are real. You know,
Like my girl Paige.
Yeah, what the caller alluded to earlier, I think, is something to really keep in mind. Maybe not that specific incident, but, you know, when people, those who do, for example, families who kick their kids out of the house, what are you kicking them into? You know?
Okay, because like, I say the same thing. Like, you know, like, I've been kicked out before, you know, and I know what it feels like to be just put out there, you know what I'm saying? Because some people can't accept the situation of who you are and what you're doing as a person. And I just got really, like, emotional. I'm like, how could you do this? And it comes from your family. So, like, sometimes family can be deceitful too, you know? And it's something that took me a long time to learn, you know, how to love somebody from a distance, because I had to
They're
learn
very
that.
grown people who are still trying to figure that out.
Okay. So it's like really a lot. So especially when it comes down to me, I'm like, you know, like, where was I gonna go? You know, the first option what came to me, okay, go to Belmont, you know. And I'm like, okay, why do I want to hang up here? You know, saying every time I walk down the street, the police are harassing me, saying I'm prostituting, or saying I'm doing something. It's just so much. Like, I just get sick of it, you know. And I think that we just, I just see a division, you know. And I just wish it can just be so much better.
Okay. Well, we got a caller. Okay. Hello? Maybe.
I love all people. You see what I mean? And I don't understand, why are we always fighting for things? It should not matter who you love. If you are gay, so what? You still have the same problems as anybody else. You get divorced, you be in love, you have sex, you have to have a job, you have to pay rent.
Girl, yes, you better
The
get
only
it.
difference
Yes.
is that y'all
I
love
can't
the
take-
same sex. And it
Absolutely.
should make a damn difference.
Thank you
You see what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
I'm with you. Right on.
Thank
right
you.
on.
I don't think we need to comment on that. You said it all. Thank you. We have another caller.
Good evening, everyone.
Hi.
Yeah, I just wanted to say everybody's out there trying to get their equal rights and shares and everything, but as us black people as a whole, we first have to get our rights together before anybody else. We haven't even gotten our rights as black people together. We have too many issues, and we're going around the real situation, and as the blacks, we have never gotten our share now, and now we are divided in all sorts of things now, and we will never see that in any of the issues until we get ourselves together as blacks, number one, and then we could start looking to branch out for other issues. That's my opinion.
Thank you for that. We'll comment while you're out there. Thank you so much for calling. So, you know, that's an issue that comes up as Affinity is doing its work, because, you know, we were created to bring visibility to black people in LGBTQ communities and LGBTQ people in black communities. And for us, it's not an either or. We were once asked by a national activist if we lead with black or lead with being lesbian or whatever it may be. And we just can't divide our identity like that. So for us, this is about human rights. And we just can't do our social justice work in silos, because we are full human beings, all of us,
Absolutely.
and we can't pick and choose the rights that we need to have first. We need to have all of our rights, and we also need to look at issues like housing and health insurance and access to good health and access to good food as human rights and public goods, because these are community issues, and it takes all of us, and no one
One left
demographic
behind.
gets ahead by itself. We are all in this together. So I think I'm gonna unfortunately, we are at the end of our time once again. I knew this was going to go fast. So this, I will say that this LGBTQ homeless summit is something that was spearheaded by Tracy Bain, who is head of, or the founder of Windy City Times, and Affinity is also involved because we are looking at this as the beyond marriage equality piece of our work that we have always done, but we just want to make it clear that even though there are a number of people who view marriage equality as the preeminent LGBTQ issues, there's so many more
Absolutely,
other
it's
issues
over
that
with, honey.
are
It didn't happen. It's
community has to be
over,
involved
honey.
in.
It's time to worry about bigger and better things.
Absolutely. So we are done for today, and we will be back next month. The topic is going to be on, we're going to do a legislative roundup on, we're ending the spring session at the Illinois State Legislature, so we want to talk about some of the public policy issues that have come up. So in the meantime, enjoy this spring-like weather that is finally here, and be good to each other. Thank you for being with us today.